Hey everybody, welcome to episode 131 of Tactical Crouch. Kick Tripod back. Yiska and Joe back. We're all back. Feels good to be back. We hung out for Spike Drop on Friday, but for the Tactical Crouch loyalists, this is the first time having the crew back. Good to see you all. Good to be back. Had a good time in Portland. I drove past all of the really violent parts. I walked through it many times and had a beer like across the street. So that was in, dude, so many pictures and everything. I'm like expecting a war zone and people to be angry all the time, and there's like dudes out there in their food carts selling me matcha tea, whatever else. So we got out of there safe. We're good. Hey guys. Hey.
What up?
What up? Well, fine. We'll just. Yiska, are you still playing chess?
No.
I literally just saw the screen change in your glasses, and I'm 80% sure. 80% sure.
Well, I'm switching between chat and see. This is show notes. Seen this? Now I go to chat. Bam.
Don't you have two monitors?
Yeah, but I need your beautiful faces on the other side. Right?
Oh. Didn't you ever
some tiny brain stuff?
Just have them both up simultaneously?
Yeah, I look at you guys the entire time.
Well,
on the right side.
Never mind. We're not going there. We're not getting there.
Stupid Germans.
Jesus. All right. Chat and everybody else who are listening, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on your favorite RSS podcast listener, or hanging out with us in chat. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch or leave us a sub right here at twitch.tv/kicktripod. We appreciate any and all your support, but the most important thing is that you're here listening to us or watching us. We appreciate you. Thanks. Other than that, check us out every Monday and Wednesday at noon Pacific. And let's get into the news brought to you by, and so here's the thing, Chad, I apologize. I need to update this list. This list is a little updated, and I think some people have changed their names on Patreon, and I apologize. Patron producers: Battlecrab Pin Lotion, Charlie L, Audio Compass, Pork Chop Sammy, Kasha67, Kuchi Kopi, Shara Picasso, Nathan Your Misery, Hunter Tane, Refine Bean, Rex Zane, Roger B, Fabled Steven, Owen, Chris R34444. Yiska's holding me hostage. Please send help. I'm under Yiska's desk. Please send help. Yiska says fisher, 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 fish. I think that's it. Is that it?
Sweet.
I think that's it. Thanks
Nice.
for supporting.
Oh, thank you.
You guys are cool. All
Love you.
Patch notes. We got some new patch notes, Yiska. These are the patch notes that are going live for that are going to be played on this weekend, right?
No.
No.
And that's
I don't know what
problem
is. Yeah.
So basically, we have talked about these patch notes before in the. Was it in the? Yeah, it must have been the scuffed episodes, right, Joe?
Yeah. Wednesday-ish. It was the experimental card coming out. What is this? What are we doing with this? Will it all go live? Turns out it will. But what are we doing with this? Is this impacting playoffs at all?
Well, yeah. So we speculated that maybe teams would come together after the playoffs, between playoffs and the top four, and maybe talk about like getting on the same patch. Because let's be honest, this is pretty terrible for people trying to practice now outside of scrims. Like, and it gets worse, right? Like, I'm not sure if there's anything going on behind the scenes where, for instance, Rainbow Six is well, wait. Let me not talk about this. But there are no third-party programs that that are currently being talked about, that are currently like in Overwatch, that could help have an improved practice environment, right? Like, so for instance, in CS:GO, right? You have FPL. FPL, for those that don't know, FPL is basically the tier 1 esports players are invited into a league, and
it's like a separate matchmaking queue, right?
Yes, that is made by Faceit, and every month, I believe 2 players can be promoted into FPL through their matchmaking rating, while some people will get demoted based on their inactivity. Most of the time, it's inactivity, not actually being too bad for FPL, right? So that then facilitates an environment where you can pretty competitively play these matches, because there's also money on the line based on the ranking that you have, right? So FPL attaches like $2,000 to first place or whatever each month. Also, I don't know what the regular stuff is. And they also moderate that queue. Now, this looks like a whole lot better than whatever Overwatch is right now, with like ranked being like a pretty bad experience. You cannot really get casual or non-pro players, even in top 500, to necessarily always buy into the metacomps that you need to play in order to practice. Now you aren't even on the same patch, and the same patch looks wildly different to the ones you would be practicing on live. The current patch that is being played is pretty like atrocious as a gameplay experience. Like, I don't know, it's just
the patch that's being played in Overwatch League, or the one that just got pushed to live?
The patch that is in Overwatch League, when that was live, was pretty terrible. Now a lot has changed. We can call it the anti power creep patch, and that's I think that works to a decent degree. That probably will mess with the game a bunch.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
When that goes live. Massive change. These pro players, for like, as far as we know, won't have a practice environment like this. And how long is the season finals out? 6 weeks or something? Like mid-October? Early October?
Something like that. I will check here. Playoffs. Yeah.
It's not a workable solution.
2 months out?
That we have currently. I fully expect some amendments to be made. Not, of course, like for this weekend or even the next, where we're playing out these playoffs. I think we're going to have to play that patch. It's bad enough that it is that patch, but after that, maybe we'll see some amendments. I think otherwise, Jesus Christ, like, I don't think we'll have much fun with that one.
I mean, I think it'll be fine. I think the ranked environment for the patch previous to the one that is currently live, that was just pushed to live, is vastly different from what'll be played. I think we kind of went over that. I don't expect it to be too bad. I'm still like scratching my head on how some of these compositions are going to work, and if they're going to work. So I don't think it'll be all that worrisome.
Yeah, it is. I'll give you the juice this week, but from what I've heard, it is. So and I'm already, oh my God. Currently, I'm just in the mood of, let me just watch some Valorant instead, like some 10K tournament.
Can we back up for a second and just talk about what's in the live patch notes? Because some people, I think, who aren't constantly hanging out on the subreddits and everything else, just might not know what's in it. I'm not going to go through everyone specifically, but generally, so multiple heroes: Anna, Ashe, Baptiste, Junkrat, McCree, the Widowmaker, Zarya had changes to their ammos, or their either how much ammo an ability uses, or just reduce the ammo capacity completely. They changed how beam type damage works against armor. So instead of reduction being 20%, it's now reduced by 30%. I feel like there's one other pretty big one I'm missing. Which one is it? The Moira changes, I think a lot of people were talking about, where the lingering heal was reduced from 4 seconds to 2 seconds. Healing per second was increased slightly from 65 to 70. And then the healing resource consumption rate increased from 11 to 14%.
Yep.
So they've done quite a bit there. Damage attack angle reduced by 37, healing resource gain rate increased by 50%. Yeah. So
it's more punishing for those who just spam left click instead of tapping it. You're supposed to. I don't know. These are a vast amount of changes that are surely going to change the meta, or at least change how we view certain heroes. Some changes a little bit more impactful than others. I don't think Widowmaker's changes are all that interesting. Just makes her a little or much worse at like absurd ranges where you're not just shooting across the map. I don't know. There's a lot to kind of digest, and I still don't even know if this is actually going to be played. It seems like it's well received for the most part from those who played the experimental patch and voiced their opinions on it. So seems interesting. Seems to be a whole lot more healthy than watching ranked divulge itself into Hog Zarya. So yeah. Good thing for most people. I'm still scratching my head on exactly what this means for the Overwatch League playoffs. So we'll have to wait for an update.
Is there, I mean, putting a patch out at any point throughout the playoffs feels really anti-competitive, right? Like that is the implication I'm hearing from you here, is that if this patch didn't, like, if it went live today and the whole playoffs was played on the patch, it sounds like at least you could have an argument for it, right? But
sure, yeah, it would have to be announced much more early, right? Like, we don't want to have this go live today and then Thursday we start playing, right?
Chat, we know this is not the playoff patch. Stop. Stop with that. It's not what we're saying. But the implication is, why is this going to live when we still have weeks of playoffs left? And that means that we have weeks of Overwatch League playing on an old patch, which is a problem in itself. So
problem that Blizzard has talked about quite extensively previously, where they don't like having the environments be that different. So what does this mean? Nobody really knows. That's the idea. That's basically what we're speaking to you. Well, what does this mean? What does this mean for the playoffs, if anything? Does this mean anything at all? We've obviously had Spectre come out and say that this, the patch previous to this one is going to be the one played in playoffs. Does that mean that we'll get this for grand finals? Will they redact what they said previously? I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm really not sure.
There's no way. I'll end the podcast if they patch it for grand finals. I will. I'm not joking.
Okay. Right. Dude, I don't know how this, there's only losses here. There's only L's. Whatever they do, it's an L. Like, changing in the middle of playoffs is principally pretty trash.
No.
Playing this patch out is an L. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe just have like a proven patch where we know where the meta is steering when you pronounce that to be the playoff patch. Now it's just like Nero just tweeted, and I quote, "Y'all are not ready for APAC playoff meta." I'm not. You're right. I'm absolutely not. Not ready to watch this garbage.
If it's that crazy, I don't know. Like, it wouldn't be the first time a game's had a bad playoff patch. It's why I don't like playoff patches, because again, you're kind of rolling the dice on what the game will become. But if that's what we can expect, and that's what we're gonna get. That's what Overwatch is gonna be. We're gonna get hero pools. We're gonna get playoff patches that eliminate roles entirely from the game. Like, that's just a prescription of modern Overwatch. I don't know. Maybe that's just the way of the future.
Dude, being a Activision Blizzard Esports is a wild ride, my dude. Like, CDL just today was announced.
Yeah, they're like,
we're
gonna do 4v4.
5 to 4. Like, currently there's just like 20% of the CDL. Just like, okay, I guess I'm jobless then. Like, this is nuts,
that's such
dude.
a bizarre change,
like,
too.
And I'm still not convinced that, like, not 100%ly convinced that this isn't coming to Overwatch either. I don't know. And this is... 100%. I mean, it's wild, dude. Like, this is just this is Formula One, the esports experience, where it's like every year we have some atrocious change, and the general like slope of viewership, other than I think 2019 there was a big jump, probably because there was some like new television contract or something that doesn't really buck the trend, but like dude, like, we just want some consistent experience. And yeah, like, we haven't found like the good stuff again, but like, we're in year 4 now. Like, we should have. Like, I don't know how much more attention do you expect me to do? And then like, there's like 2,700 dedicated people in this scene, and like, I don't know. Like, are you feeling like playoff hypey at the moment?
No, I mean, I've been very critical of Blizzard in the past for their playoff mishandling and their hype lack or lack thereof, creation and content. Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you when. I mean, I had to look the other day to see when play-in starts because I thought they started last weekend. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Hearing that the playoff patch might actually be kind of goofy in terms of the meta has me interested, cynically so.
Okay, we're doing it again, guys. Look at Joe's face. I just posted what it will be. Let's interpret Joe's face once again. He's looking.
That's the thing, is like, even if that is the case, I wonder if that would be across the board, if that makes sense, without saying too much.
Sure.
I hope for
that would be the most played composition. Like, when we're saying this is meta, that doesn't mean it's played on 2CP. It doesn't mean it's played on Control. It's just like this will have roughly like 40% playtime or whatever.
With trying to dance around the bush here for a moment, like, there is more to that encompasses the entire league, if that makes sense. I wonder how deep those roots go to the entire metagame and all of the teams
based on the bar
participating. Sure, you could say that.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
again, I think this season as a whole has showcased that people do want some crazy, zany, wacky stuff, right?
No, it hasn't.
Apparently, I mean, I don't know.
Otherwise, they would tune in. Like, the people that say they want hero pools are looking just as silly as support tier 2 people right now. All talk, no action.
I don't know. I don't think I can agree.
Many of the support tier 2 people actually do stuff that supports tier 2.
Yeah,
but
sure.
There's a good chunk of people that also don't say it anymore. That like, if that was true, then we would have some significant.
I don't see the connection to fans wanting like crazy zany kind of comps and stuff.
Because we're at 30k viewers, and then once we get token drops and tournaments, then it goes up. There was no budge in the viewership whatsoever. By the way, that's something that Baroy said. I assume Baroy is someone that looks at the numbers. There's no discernible difference between a hero pool, hero pools being played, and people actually enjoying that in essence by showing up.
Sure. I would imagine Blizzard would have those numbers then as well, and they would make changes according to that, but apparently they think otherwise.
I think people showing up to the live broadcast is a little bit of a disingenuous only marker for content, especially after they moved to YouTube. So VODs are way more accessible up in a much more timely manner. And the number of the number of matches that we've had, especially over the last 2 months, have been just kind of insane because we've been doing catch-up matches and COVID and everything else. Like, I think that there's a lot of different things that contribite to that. I do believe...
but that's not the argument. Okay. The argument is we played without hero pools. We have the slopes of the first and second season, how the viewership behaves. And there's no anomaly, an uptick in viewership, unless you believe people actually watched way less Overwatch during COVID, because that pandemic has an inherent property that makes everyone scared of Overwatch, but not of every other esport that saw 100% growth rates.
I'm not saying that. I mean, for all we know, the switch to hero pools tapered the downswing that we could have saw this season. Like viewership is an incomplete number without intention. So if we had, let's say we had a perfect world in which we lived in two different realities, one where we kept no hero pools, one where we had one. And in this other reality, viewership went down when we kept no hero pools. And whatever else, whatever other changes that you want to balk at. So you've got this downward trend, and then you have this post-hero pool meta where it's a little bit more like this. That viewership doesn't tell the story of the correlation between viewership with and without hero pool, except that they largely stayed flat, even though viewership was trending downwards under no hero pools.
No, the point is that there is no discernible difference.
The point is that you can't know that. That's the point. Using a flat line like this and saying there's no discernible difference because we had this change, when before the line was like this. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but you know the lines of that how the lines went the 2 years before.
I mean, you can't use 2 years before.
Properties
you can't.
2 years before, yeah.
The
properties that changed was that suddenly everyone was locked in at home and therefore they watched less Overwatch.
I mean, you also have a complete platform change.
But we have the comparison between start of the season. Sorry?
I don't know. There's a lot that changed, and I feel like we're just hand waving that away.
But we have comparisons based on that. We have no hero pools.
You can compare that, but there again, there's a lot that changed. Yes, there was no hero pools. We also had a live audience. You also have a live broadcast. You also are all in one place. You also have more content to be created. There's a lot that changed. I don't think you're necessarily taking that into account. Yes, you have one and not the other, right? You have no hero pools, and hero pools, the numbers don't add up, but you're completely hand waving away the platform change.
Yeah, but
the only thing that this tells us is that
is not even remotely in the realm of uncertainty.
The only thing that this tells us is that the changes this year did not contribute to a meaningful increase or increase at all in viewership.
Yes, that's my argument.
That's it. Not that viewership is worse, or that people don't care about hero pools, or that hero pools was not an effective way to stave off the downward trend that was happening last year. Those are all assumptions that we cannot make on the data that were. And
like you guys must believe there's some underlying magic in the ether that nobody else can sense. But the and we're giving it to the uncertainty god, and therefore elevating, like it doesn't logically add up. Occam's razor clearly is that there's a huge weight for people watching more Overwatch based on being locked inside.
There should be, but then
so
there isn't.
Every other esports has upticks 100%. In viewership.
Are you making prescriptions onto why that is?
I'm not disagreeing with the numbers.
Yeah.
I'm disagreeing with the justifications for why those numbers didn't increase.
Like at that point, you guys aren't certain of anything in your life.
Sure.
Okay.
I suppose.
You literally cannot, like, this is the level of certainty as that you can believe your eyes. Unless you have a very good counterexample or counterforce that very obviously is the case. I'm not saying it's 100%, but it doesn't need to be in order to be a certainty.
Okay. I think we have different definitions of certainty then, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. I think if we're to trust Blizzard, which there's no, you say how you trust them however much you want. You can put as much stock into them as you want, or as little. I think they've left a convenient back door for them to exit hero pools as conveniently and as quickly as they want to, and they have it. So they must have something that we don't know, because we're still in hero pools, or at least we were.
Because competitive integrity would have been even more. They would have looked at like clowns if it just took it away at some point in the season. They already talked about how they disliked changing the most tiny things. Jeff Kaplan himself did that. Then they did 5 other changes.
Sure.
Like the reason very obviously is that you can't commit to such a systemic huge change within a league format and expect to hold competitive integrity and go, okay, we're doing the first month of the season under no hero pools. Then we're going to hero pools. Oh, it's a terrible format. Let's, for the last 2 months of the season, not go hero pools. They did the best thing in taking hero pools away that they could. They introduced parts of the season where there was no hero pools.
Wasn't, sure. But we've gone over why that also is problematic in a number of ways.
Sure. But there's no way to step any more back from that change than I think that they already did without making a fool of themselves.
I'd be lying if I didn't say that this wasn't like in a way a bad faith argument, and looking at Blizzard's communication in terms of, well, if you guys don't like it, then we'll just get rid of it. It's not the case. We understand that this hasn't necessarily increased viewership, like you're saying with COVID, and nothing's really changed from it. So either they have something we don't know, or it was a failure.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if that returns in the same mode.
That's the whole point of the argument.
I could totally see them bringing them back like with 4-week things, or something fundamentally changes about Overwatch, which doesn't necessitate it. I think I don't know. It might just be just as fit as no hero pools, because at the end of the day, maybe nobody cares what they're even watching, and they're just there to have a beer with friends while watching, while farming tokens.
I wonder if that's what Blizzard actually thinks that our viewer thinks of the game, which is sobering to admit. I don't think that. I think a lot of people are interested in like the mechanics and the nuance and the strategy of the game, maybe at differing levels. Maybe you don't need to know or don't care to know the entire grand scheme of things, but a general through line and a general story and a general like style or feel for each team. Yeah, I think people genuinely want that, but yeah, I don't know. Again, that was the whole argument that I was trying to portray, is that if we assume what Blizzard says to be true and we hold them basically to their word, what is stopping them from reverting it? If we understand that nothing positive has come from it. I mean, even just last week.
It's competitive integrity.
It was a competitive integrity question to introduce it in week 4.
Sure. So you don't make so many mistakes so often, right?
Was it a mistake to keep it the entire season?
Yeah.
Seems like it was.
I mean, it was. Okay. Maybe wasn't a mistake to try things.
I don't think it was a mistake to try things.
To pilot it. I think they should have created a contained system. Maybe it should have been like one stage format where it's like, let's say we still have stages, and stage 2 would have been the hero pool stage, and we just tried something, and after that we went back or decided, okay, this actually is quite fun. Let's continue doing it.
I think that'd be a fair shake. Again, we didn't get that. So again, unless they have something we don't know, the viewership really hasn't seen an uptick in terms of, you know, how successful hero pools have been. Granted, again, we're going into playoffs, so this kind of conversation is for the birds, but yeah, just interesting to kind of think about. And I agree for the most part to your point. I would put a little bit more stock into the viewership and not necessarily landing due to a lot of the changes that we had this season.
Look, I just take issue with that hero pools did nothing positive for viewership based on an average number over a number of weeks. I think that's just taking incomplete information, drawing something with a lot of variables and attributing it to one.
Yes, and there's a counter variable that should lift that graph up and still going to go up. And it should be a huge counter variable because it was a 100% multiplier on many other esports in terms of viewership, right? And looking at the curved pattern of the other two seasons, it doesn't, unless you believe there's some other like rough pattern of content consumption on YouTube where people magically don't watch more in the month of, what was it? Was it April when it was introduced? Like there must be a very obvious counterforce to the two forces. Hero pools is positive and pandemic happens and everyone sees huge viewership rises.
If
both of those are positive, and I'm not arguing that it's strictly negative, right? I'm saying nobody cares, really, truly cares. Or a lot of people care and the same amount of people don't hate it. Maybe like we're canceling each other out in the growth pattern. But like if there's a gigantic multiplier and we're still not ticking up, and the only upticks that we could prove and very
you're talking about the gigantic outlier or multiplier. So multiplier meaning COVID-19 increasing viewership in other esports. And by multiplier, are you saying ×2 multiplier or just an uptick?
Yeah, I mean, it was
I don't
for some
know
esports it was ×2. It wasn't for all, but there was
multiplier seems
between
like
20% and like 100%.
Yeah, just like an increase, but
it's an increase.
Like
I wouldn't prescribe any napkin math to it, and I'm sure some people have looked at it. But I would agree that there's an increase across the board, and we haven't necessarily seen that outside of the tournaments, which again, credit to Blizzard, have been a good addition.
How many of those leagues started from scratch on YouTube this year after being on Twitch last year?
No, we're comparing to our league. And the other leagues, they were on YouTube beforehand. Like League of Legends, for instance, didn't see that dip. And
sure.
Like they just had a 900K
and they've been there. Their viewers know where to go for it now, how to consume it.
What is exactly the pattern where people forget during a global pandemic that they panic and don't know where the Overwatch button is?
I mean, that's disingenuous, right? Like people are creatures of habit. I wake up in the morning and I go watch Twitch. Even Dr. Disrespect is on YouTube. I watch Dr. Disrespect on Twitch almost every day. He's on YouTube now. I haven't watched him since. Not because I don't think he's a great streamer. Not because I don't like Dr. Disrespect. It's just not part of my pattern. It's not because I don't care about it. I just catch up with the highlights later on.
I understand. But then that pattern, what you're describing, would have to be within the first 5 weeks of play as well, right? Like if there's no habit of people going to YouTube, like we already had a multiplier and we lost a lot of viewership due to YouTube. We can pretty confidently say that based on the
totally,
that we
and
had.
we expect it to.
Sure,
right.
But we never saw that uptick with COVID. I think that's his point. Is that COVID?
Here's a pretty big thing, I suppose, in fairness, that would have to say, no live production could actually be this hidden variable that you're talking about. So maybe for some reason our audience cares about production value and people not casting out of their bedrooms very heavily, much more so than any other esports. That's, for instance, like one counterweight that would explain that COVID was maybe not a big uptick for us, and it was actually so bad that it dragged down whatever benefit hero pools contributed, because we know, like, okay, let's say this is the slope. We just imagine a river or a bathtub, right? Like that's the viewership over
Sure.
season, right? It starts up top, and then we go down, and then we go slightly up again, right at the end for playoffs. That same pattern would, in different sizes, be represented on Twitch and the YouTube numbers, presumably, unless there's some different quality, right? It would be very weird to have a bathtub that has like a serious dent in April where exactly Hero Pools hit.
For sure.
And like the uplift of Hero Pools just like lifted everyone up. Maybe there's a pattern where people actually feel less inclined to just regularly check, and like the honeymoon phase of like, oh yeah, I get to watch Overwatch, then goes down more heavily than it was on Twitch, because YouTube is not in the general browsing structure, for instance, of a viewer.
It's not. It's
these
not
patterns all seem
discoverable, especially live. Live discoverability is.
I mean,
I never had it not on my front page when it was live.
Again, it's not for the people who are looking for it.
You're already subscribed to a bunch of Overwatch channels.
Yeah, it's going to, the algorithm will probably push it towards you. Again, I'm not in the algorithm.
Yes, but we're talking about the, like, do you guys think people that, like, do you think, okay, from the 100,000 viewers that watch on day one, how many make it through the season and are more or less regular viewers?
I'm gonna use a parallel industry for a second. I know for a fact that 50% of YouTube viewers who view content creation videos, so Harris Heller, Epis Vox, and this is a little bit of a parallel thing here, are not subscribed to any channels.
Okay.
Do you subscribe to channels?
Yeah. But I don't
Overwatch?
use the channel subscriptions to.
Sure, but the fact that you are subscribed there checks you off, so that when you hit that live, or you go to Overwatch League, or you are just on your front page, you are more likely to get that stream. And as far as we know so far, and the people that I have checked with, it's based on your subscriptions, not your browsing patterns.
Okay.
That's as far as I know. So if we can assert that 50% number is somewhat accurate in esports as it is to people who are consuming this other type of content on YouTube, we could assume that a lot of people who consume Overwatch content aren't subscribed to Overwatch channels and then aren't getting fed the feeds. That is largely my point.
Okay. But how do you then explain that we saw almost 100% increase in viewership based on tournaments and drops? Consistently, by the way.
I think that there's a lot for that. I just don't think it's because of Hero Pools.
No, I'm saying, like, if Hero Pools was as big of a boon as, for instance, tournaments would be, or token drops would be, you would see the same pattern occur in those instances, right?
You'd see some sort of pattern. I don't know if it'd be at the same magnitude.
You lost me a little bit.
But...
Okay, so I play a tournament. Okay, and here's the problem, because it's not like they introduce tournaments and drops at the same time, right?
Yeah.
But because we can look at regular season play then between tournaments, we can sort of see that tournaments bring an uptick in wanting to be or are desirable to watch, right? So
very measurable.
Every time a tournament comes on, we go up, right? And then we go down again. So if Hero Pools, or the novelty that Hero Pools brings, we would have to see the introduction of Hero Pools, and we had a atrocious meta before that, right? Like,
before
that was
Hero
one
Pools? You didn't like it?
The Goosh? Nah. That, like, I would have...
I mean, it wasn't my favorite ever, but I
would have invented Hero Pools if that would have been the entire weeks. That would have been the worst.
That bad.
That would have been the worst season meta we've had yet, I think.
Yeah, but
maybe that would have been some innovation, of course.
I think we put way too much stock. You really think that would go
the entire season?
I think we put way too much stock in how much people care about the metas being played as good or bad metas when they're changing monthly. I really do.
Right now or in the past?
This year.
Just to be clear.
This
year. Well,
because we've only had a meta changing every 5 weeks ever in Overwatch this year. Last year we had multiple months of same patches and same rough stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I think I agree in terms of just the general apathy, because there's not like a consistent like viewing experience where I know that I'm going to tune in and I'm going to see these teams play this composition or like this style, or maybe I'll see some variation for the most, maybe based on the map. But I think kind of general apathy is probably increased due to that. And I don't think
I would
it's a
be
good thing.
surprised if the target market, and I think that this is bad for Overwatch League. If Overwatch League's meaningful base is people who think I'm excited to see X composition this week, we're already a sunk ship.
I don't think it's as simple as that. I think it's more of just like I can expect a coherent experience maybe within a month or maybe 2 months or an extended amount of time where I can tune in and I know vaguely what I'm going to see, and it isn't going to be like this kind of crazy fiesta, like, oh, you don't know what you're going to get type of thing. I think that general thing lends itself, and we've talked about this in the past, to storylines and creating drama and creating things that people can actually hold on to that aren't necessarily tied directly to the game, like a composition. So you have styles battling against one another. You have an underdog, a very clear underdog, and a very clear favorite. You don't really have that right now. So it's not as much as it's tied to the actual gameplay mechanics as it is to everything gameplay mechanic adjacent. Does that make sense? That's at least what I'm trying to say.
I generally agree, right? The ultimate goal is that you have a team that you like and you tune in to watch that team, number one. Number two,
and you kind of can know what to expect.
You play Overwatch, you like Overwatch, you want to see other people play Overwatch. Like those are kind of like, I think, with the level of traditional sports models, which we can talk about the fallacies in that, I understand.
Sure.
But traditional sports models isn't built off of the super fan. It isn't. There's as far as who they, who can, what's the right way to say? The non-super fan who tunes in every week represents just as much money, if not more, than the smaller segments of super fans. Like, sorry, everybody in Overwatch or in our chat right now talking about like, I didn't like this stuff and the stuff. Like, the fact that you remember this means this doesn't even apply to you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're too invested. It's the people like Katie, my brother, or my friend who tune in. Like, he likes the Boston Uprising. Doesn't care if they win or lose. Doesn't care how bad they are. You tune in. That's where esports markets, or just, I guess, viewership markets, are built off in general when there comes to an investment. And catering to like those kind of storylines is really difficult as far as gameplay adjacent. If you get too adjacent to gameplay or too close to gameplay, I think you lose that, is kind of what I was trying to get out.
I think we haven't really had, at least like looking at pre-tournaments and post-tournament like narratives, I'll say, or things that have been gameplay adjacent. I think we've been severely lacking in that department.
Totally
and
agree.
I think there's a very clear problem child that I'd point to. And again, this was all just to jab at hero pools, and I think the message has been a resounding but big failure across the board.
Can I actually argue against myself with another aspect that was it? Yeah, Brad sort of brought me to this, where it's like, what it also could be, despite the production value going down, could also be that there's now a split in the regions where it is very easy for a viewer to just not care about one region. While if a team traveled around, maybe the probability of getting attached to one of them would have probably increased, though the viewership time zones would have not been different, right? Of course, we're also talking about viewership patterns within North American context. So you would have expected a lower viewership for NA anyway, right? Which we sort of should probably take into account when we're discussing North American YouTube numbers as well. Possibly there's an adverse effect towards higher sustainable viewership because like you have less teams you could potentially get attached to, or maybe your favorite team that is now no longer in your time zone is no longer playing.
That was my kind of question, was if we're talking about clear live viewership and somebody's favorite team being one of the Asian teams kind of leaving, yeah, I could see a drop off there. But does that negate the even amount of production value that has been lost across the board over most esports that can't be live right now? Does that negate, like you said, the COVID increase? Somehow I don't know. I'm a little bit more skeptical on that front.
And to a degree, okay. So my current assumption is the following.
Okay.
I think we are going to see a lot of online play next year as well.
Sure. Makes sense. I mean, that's
I think if
probably
you're
something to be expected.
I think it's very likely that very late into the season, while we're already planning what we're doing next year, there's a plausible risk assessment that there's a possibility that these homestands can be made. I also think, and this might be a shock to you guys, that some of the owners have become wise to that not being the way to go. I don't think even if we find a vaccine tomorrow and we've like vaccinated everyone until the end of the month on the planet and have achieved herd immunity, I still don't think we're going to a full homestand model next year based on the feasibility of broadcast and the connected production value and everything. I think to a degree there is skepticism towards that concept. And I suppose I wrote an article about the implementations of the metaverse, right? So the metaverse is like the connecting pathway between virtual realities or augmentative realities. So metaversial inventions would be things that cross over different medias, right? So for instance, one aspect of the metaverse is Travis Scott having a concert in Fortnite, or like Marvel characters showing up in Fortnite. What's going on? You guys are looking very...
I can't say that I didn't wasn't sure on that one. Now, to be fair, not to interrupt you, we'll get to this. I don't think this is as severe as it seems.
I agree.
I think people are going to very understandably shoot from the hip. For audio listeners who aren't in chat and did not see the tweet, Uber just tweeted that as of, I believe, October. As of October 13th, I'll be operating as a freelancer. I'm open to any and all opportunities as a play-by-play commentator and host. My experience lies in FPS/mobile card games with 10 years of esports broadcast experience. Let's work together.
Right.
And an email link.
Okay. So you want the very like optimistic take here? Maybe this is a negotiation strategy.
I think it is.
Get us right up.
I think it is. I don't think this is bad. I don't know if this is... Yes, it is very an optimistic take, but I think that's all you can look into it for as of right now. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. I was already skeptical with how the casters last year were treated. And then now this year, I think people have gotten wise to that. I don't think it's a coincidence that people like Sideshow have been very heavily dabbling in Valorant, and a lot of those guys making content about other games. It doesn't surprise me that he's moving to freelance. Is this a negotiation? Is he trying to pull leverage? I don't think that Uber is completely lost in Overwatch. Like, he might not just be a fixture.
Here's what we should make sure that we does not say he will not be casting Overwatch League next year or Overwatch again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That is not in that tweet.
True, but it very likely means that it's going to be less, right?
If I was to put my thinking cap on, I would say so.
The same time, like pre-COVID homestands, did we see less of Puckett and Golden Boy? Not really, honestly. We saw them at all the homestands hosting anyway. Now, hosting casting's different. I totally get it, but and casters are treated differently or whatever. But I think Golden Boy and Puckett are two examples of people who aren't, like, obviously Zoe ended up taking over kind of that role
and doing a fantastic job.
Absolutely. Okay. So I don't know, like it's a weird one, but let's not
I wouldn't shoot from the hip just yet until you get the confirmation, if there was ever going to be one come next season, that Uber has nothing to do with Overwatch. Once that comes out, then I think grab the pitchforks and the torches and knock on
follow-up tweet
Blizzard's door.
I am still associated with the Overwatch League and have a great working relationship with them. I'm just free to pursue other opportunities after the season ends.
See?
Listen here, chat.
All good, chat. See? We're okay.
Maybe. It doesn't say he'll be back next year.
No.
It also does not say he'll be back next year, but
I think this lends itself more to the leverage argument. You know, good working relationship.
Got an agent. I don't know who he was using as his agent before. He might just have a new agency.
To be fair, every talent agented up, right? Like Sideshow Brand got with CSA.
As they should.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's very smart to.
I understand the concern. I get it. I'm right there with you, but I don't think we can.
No,
we can, rage the machine.
The thing is, there's a big bad boy in town, and they got big monies, and like the assumption being that they are going to have big tournaments, and they already took an MVP from us, dude.
And they're going to be taking a whole lot more, I think.
Dude, I look at DJ Khaled and then I look at Rise and I'm just like, I mean, those are not okay. I look at Rise and then I look at the MVP candidate little videos and how everyone is so happy about this. Would people that get a Rise-esque Overwatch feature ever actually stop orgasming?
Probably not. I think that would probably ruin the internet. But there again, you're also looking at two different audiences who have been like conditioned differently, right? Like the League of Legends audience have been conditioned to expect as much. The Overwatch audience really has never gotten
give it to us. We're very thankful. We're very happy about admittedly well drawn and pretty cool 30-second features when others have the biggest artists in the world doing songs for you with sick visuals while incorporating the stories of your pro players, making it meaningful, mythologizing, having 900,000 people in your one region just curb stomp every other esports and viewership, while 100%. We'll have 200 million people watch Worlds once again.
I agree. So while we're here, we have to kind of celebrate what we do have. We have Sophie. Apologies if I'm getting the company's name wrong, with the Florida Mayhem coming out and supporting Yaki with the MVP race. I think that was very well done. I thought it was well put together. I think the success around that should show, and I don't know how much else you need to show the league that content like this is appreciated, is beloved, is mythologized, and should be created by the league to support its players. I don't know why else you would need an in-house representation of that when nearly every esport can do something similar and kind of showcase the increase that gives very measurably, I would say. But we have something now. We had something last year with the playoffs. It returned this year with the fun little 15, not even 15, maybe like 10-second little teaser video for each team of the avatar running through, the city of Guangzhou, and the charge animal of some sort is, it's these little things I think people gravitate towards. It's this content that people really are foaming at the mouth for, and it's been my gripe for a long time now. Why aren't we getting more of that? Where is this interest? Why aren't we putting the interest back into the cycle, right? If that makes sense. Hopefully that's not too convoluted. Yeah, I don't know. I wish we got more things like the Rise interviews or the Rise, animation. I'd like this to be better.
Like, I'm looking at the viewership numbers for that Yaki feature, right?
Yeah.
On YouTube, it has 9K views. The Rising Star Yaki for Rookie MVP on the Mayhem channel has 742. Do you want me to look up how much Rise has?
No.
You literally mean just
fraction.
742.
Yes. Okay. Rise, League of Legends.
I'm gonna say. Let me guess. I'm gonna say, and this came out last weekend or this weekend?
No, last year.
No. This is.
The Rise.
Oh, wait,
the new one. Oh, you're talking about
the
Rise.
baddest? Okay, let's
baddest.
look at the baddest.
The baddest. I'm gonna say they're already at
30 million?
600K.
Oh, well past 600K.
Yeah, they're at 13 million, and it
13.
isn't the
when
main.
Did it come out?
On the 27th.
Last week.
Well, okay, the baddest is sort of a little bit different because KDA isn't necessarily the esports thing. It is a world song, but it's like, so if I look at, just to give people that maybe are like, don't know about just how large League of Legends is, Pop Stars, so the last year's, 2 years ago, actually, I think, world song was, has 368 million views on YouTube, that being the main video, right? Then Warriors, the one 5 years ago, has 278. Rise has 228 million. That's a dedicated esports song where the main characters of the song and the story of the song is about esports only, with basically telling the story of Ambition's climb to the top, having to face the champion Faker, right? By the way, very easily doable with season 1 champions Gesture and Profit, which I suggest on Twitter before.
That's not why anyone's listening to the song, though. Just so we're clear, it's just
I think
it's just a really catchy song. No. But people at Katie's work listen to that song. They've never. I couldn't even tell you what League of Legends is. It's way beyond.
It's a healthy amount of.
Irresponsible to say that is an esports song as far as the bubble that has gotten it to X 30 million views, whatever you said it was at. Irresponsible.
200 million people watched Worlds.
I understand.
I mean, I completely agree that probably, like, people that listened or looked at this video are probably, like, for this very story, it's probably only 20% because there's a lot of replays in there. There's definitely people, like, at least half the people are listening to this because they like the song.
It's a
that said, it's also not the official video. And then we can also compare it to the remix. Let me see if I can find it real quick, because they had a remix with Bobby that has 23 million views, right?
And to be clear, I won't speak for Yiska, but I think the idea is that this song was created for esports. It's not directly about esports, to be fair. The video is heavily themed around esports and League of Legends esports. So is it directly? Probably not. Is it directly, an esports IP or content or a piece of content? Not necessarily, but it does a good job of doing what I believe he's talking about, is giving it a shot in the arm of this incredible hype and fervor and catching almost like a viral fire online.
Let me also completely be clear about my bias. When I watched that video for the first time, I had a spiritual experience I've never had in a church. I'm not kidding. I'm being genuine. Like, that's
fair.
Not an exaggeration. I fucking spiritually splooched, right? this is the shit I want out of esports. This is all that it ever should be, right?
Yeah.
And to a degree, like also, a lot of people didn't like the song, but Phoenix is a dope as hell frame as well.
Yeah.
Where it's about beating yourself and beating whatever it is inside you that is saying you can't do it, right?
Right.
And that had also a representative, and it was like a music video shot, like with dope visuals, with the players as well. Also, every on-stage performance actually involves the players. The players are either being lifted up. Joe, it's not abstract. Look at the
I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. I think again, I'll be the semantic here. I think the verbiage of involves is a little broad, I'll say.
Okay, so they are on stage and they are being let in, and their highlights of how they got there are being shown, and they're being shown their corporal.
But let's make it very clear that they're Faker and Bjergsen are not singing and dancing and doing the Michael Jackson flips and tricks, right?
No.
They're on stage. They're supported.
Yeah,
and they are a part of the performance. They are fixtures of the performance, but they're not actively in the
WWE walkout.
It's also not the case that Taylor Swift's ex-boyfriends are on stage when she sings about it.
I agree. I'm just making that very clear for those who are not in the know to not assume that world is going to include Doin B running around on stage and doing some crazy dance moves, right?
Like, no, they do trying to set expectations. Cool
they'll do a pose, they'll wave, they'll stand there stoically. They are they're fixtures of the performance, but that's what they are. They're fixtures. They don't necessarily move. They're not.
They will also. I don't even think they're choreographing anything. It's just like they walk out.
They
and
just stand there. They're supported. That's it.
Like I'd be surprised if hey, at this cut, I'm gonna dab. Okay,
yes.
Like I don't even think that there's even that level.
No.
And to be fair, we have something adjacent to that, where we have, Golden Boy announcing all of the teams in the finals coming out, but it's tying that to a piece of content that is supporting it, whether that be a song or an animation or something to excite people, to get the world on fire, to get the world to notice the Overwatch League. That's the idea and the piece of content that we're after, and it hasn't happened yet. So
we have DJ Khaled going, sing the Cardi B song. Come on, sing it for me. Cardi B, bro. Like, the artist is not even. It's unreal, dude. Oh,
totally get it.
And then Zed was, of course, a lot better, but it was still not a song.
Could have been better.
Could have been better. Yes.
The problem, and I think one of the biggest issues is here, right, is that, and this is still kind of like it's a debatable topic, but let's just say, Overwatch League does not support itself the way that League does in its Overwatch scene or in its esports scene. And so investing into getting Dylan Francis to go play a private event is $150,000.
Sure.
That's approximately what it is. So I don't know how much bigger Zed is than that, but let's just say it's double or triple. To get KDA to come in, do a song, get a whole video for it. I mean, we're talking multi-million-dollars. For something that's going to play for, Yiska's point, 200 million people live,
100%
versus 50K, maybe 150K for grand finals.
We got DJ Khaled instead.
And I honestly, I think that was an investment where it's just like, let's just go mainstream big name and not let's take somebody endeared by the community, create content that will tie the artist to the community and put it together. Like, again, they just went like, cool, we have $5 million. Who can we get for this? DJ Khaled.
To be fair,
okay, go.
You know what League of Legends does? They get the superstars before they absolutely blow up and then build relationships with them. I mean, you know who was in KDA? Madison Beer. Before she remotely became the superstar that she is. G-Idol wasn't as huge as they were at the time. They had one dud in there, which was...
Do you think Overwatch League is trying to, or would be smart to try and get major artists from like Korea?
Yeah,
you could try.
Yeah, it's a massive overlap to go into K-pop.
I think
it's very obviously the case.
I think that would be very successful.
But
I think
nobody above 40 has
I want
ever heard of them.
pronounce, or I have a counterpoint.
Okay.
I don't think that they will ever compete meaningfully with League in Korea. They see their growth markets here in the United States.
Sure.
Primarily in the United States, and so they invest in artists here in the United States.
Sure, that's fine. Let's play within that framework then. Why aren't we getting like a young up and coming, music group, tying them or signing them to like
name
this?
one?
It's not my job to name one. Go find one.
But right, so like, even then, I knew who KDA was before any of these things. I don't listen to K-pop. Like, I don't know if I would classify KDA as up and coming.
KDA didn't exist 2 years ago.
KDA is still like the G-Idol was
sorry, I don't even know the right terms, because that's how little but like I knew of the group that was KDA. I don't even understand the whole lore behind that, if I'm being honest. But
so the idea is that they're taking these young artists and kind of tying them to in-game properties and giving you a piece of content. Why can't we do something similar? That's my point. Whether that be in Korea, whether it be China, whether it be the United States, whether it be Europe. Why aren't we creating
young artists exist all that much in the United States music? And let me frame that. You don't have a lot of K-pop boy bands or gal pals, whatever those groups are called. It doesn't even matter, but you don't really have a lot of those here.
Give me a sec.
DJs
I think I got
in
the
their
name
mid-20s.
that will kill you. Give me a sec.
I'm not saying there aren't exceptions.
I think there's plenty. I don't think there's a lack of house music producers that
Like,
want to create
too late. I would have loved to be able to say Billie Eilish, because it was very close to that.
Billie Eilish was going to be a name that I was going to bring up. Donald Glover was going to be a name a couple years ago that I would have brought up. Childish Gambino, I think would have been one.
Post
He's
Malone.
a gamer.
I think you're looking too big.
Not 3 years ago, before This Is America.
I mean
Childish Gambino was
yeah.
larger.
No, I think why it takes a lot of like up and coming either music producers or talented musicians and gives them a platform. I feel like that gives Riot a little too much credit, but features them in a piece of content that they know is going to be successful. And I would be willing to put a large sum of money that something similar for Overwatch would be very, very successful. And I've been kind of clamoring for it and beating that drum for a long time. Whether that be in NA, EU, Europe, wherever, I don't care.
It's not our job to know. It's a job of someone below the age of 40 in that company to know and connect the wires. Problem is that that's not true, but like,
look at all the music hosts they have on Ven. I've never heard a lick of those music. And every time I see it pop on Twitter, I'm like, oh, who are these people? Get some of them. I don't know. Find them. Not my job. I gave you the idea.
Also, the Warriors artists weren't big personalities either.
A lot of very young. So you're not. And again, I don't know how nefarious you want to look into this, but you're not necessarily paying a DJ Khaled rate. You're getting somebody young and giving them a platform.
They're also like they're hitting it every time. Like
Boo-How hits it perfectly. Joe wants Blizzard to discover the Beatles as a side project.
I don't want them to discover. I'm just asking them to do a little bit more. It doesn't even have to be music. We can. If you don't want music, guys, we'll wash our hands of the music. Give me an interesting player feature. Like the Yaki, where Yaki's coming out and he's Tracer and he's battling Prophet on Genji. Wouldn't you like that? I think that'd be pretty cool. We don't have that either.
I agree.
Why aren't you super excited for the playoffs? Because we don't have anything to excite us. There's nothing to strike that match. So whether that's music, whether that's a fun video to watch, whether that's a piece of drama that piece of dramatic content that the league has created. It doesn't. I'm not asking for something specific, or I won't create a specific argument. I'm just asking for excitement. I'm asking the league to do a little bit more in terms of content creation.
And someone that understands the demographic and lines them up. Zed is a good call. I won't deny that. Like, it's an endemic like someone that expressed interest in the game. That's the type of artist you want, right? And if that guy didn't fall into their lap and he didn't have 8 million Twitter followers, then nobody at the top would have still cared about this. Because everyone's a dried up boomer who gets to decide stuff at the top there.
I'll say it right now. I believe that if the marketing company in Overwatch League had executed it properly, I think DJ Khaled could have actually been cool. I think people would have liked it. It wouldn't have been KDA. But the problem is you got a relatively, I don't want to say DJ Khaled was a has-been, because I think that's kind of mean. I do a podcast about video games on the internet, so fuck me.
Sure, whatever.
But he's not the most relevant among the TikTokers out there. If we're taking the youth these days, the backward caps wearing t-shirt, South Korea jersey on the wall kids.
Not the youths.
But the problem is that what does DJ Khaled know about Overwatch?
Yeah.
What did he pretend to know about Overwatch?
Zed was closer to that.
Zed's closer.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Someone raised a point, and I suppose we should say this is an analogous conversation that we're having, because this underlining idea of being entirely out of touch with a fan base has been an underlying pattern, and we've gotten better at it. Most definitely. We have made large improvements.
Yes, I would agree.
But the same is true when I talk about the metaverse in terms of who actually, to my knowledge, nailed Travis Scott for that Fortnite interview? It was Nate Nanza. Sorry, not interview, concert. Is my info that I've got. We got the dudes that can make this happen. We just don't have the creatives. Yeah,
we did have the dudes
to come up with, or maybe we have the creatives to come up with these ideas, but for some reason, because it doesn't whatever evaluation method they use, it doesn't line up with the vision. Dude, everything is just okay. On the one hand, we have companies like Riot, Fortnite, like Epic, trying to get with the times, look at the technology that is available, do cool VFX stuff for their live events, or mix up mediums and create metaversial gateways that we at some point can mix together. Minecraft and Roblox are legitimately better at this than any Blizzard game is. Not even kidding. There are legitimate economies in terms of mod support and whatnot in both of these games. That this is an underlying thing that something is going wrong with this company, that they don't have the creative mental acuity and creativity to just make these connections and be leaders anymore. You know how everyone fell in love with Blizzard for those reasons, because they were innovators of the of games, or they took formulas and made them so much better. That Overwatch, as far as I can tell, is the last legacy. We have a great franchise that, or not franchise, what's it?
IP
that everyone buys into, and so many people are pretty smitten with the story. There's a lot you can do. Even the topics are very topical right now with AI taking over. We could do so much. We're doing nothing with it.
To be fair, we do have a new game coming out, so maybe it's coming.
We have a new game. I also want to be clear that this is not something that's just systemic of Overwatch League.
No.
This is something that is honestly beyond even all of Blizzard. Look at any Blizzard IP right now and tell me what cool, how are they relevant right now in the social space? Well, they make really good games. I think that's where it stops there. And the really good is, I get it, but that's what they do. That's what they're known for. That's what they're being given money to do.
Yep.
And I look at the Activision side of things. What like where is the
I
relevancy
tend to
on
agree.
those as well that is outside of the gameplay itself? Where's my The Weeknd concert in Fortnite?
And that's where I kind of push back against Yiska's point that it's not, and I'll be the semantic again. I don't think it's the lack of creativity. I think they have a vast amount of creativity.
No.
It's the application of it,
The gatekeepers.
and admitting that you can do it better. And it's something, a very staple Blizzard move where you can do it better, but you have to admit that somebody has already done it.
Yeah.
They always have their heads in the sand. And when people try to tell them, whether that be people close to the league, whether that be people close to projects, that, hey, this isn't the way to do it. It should be this way. Maybe look at these people for creative input or, guidance or looking where the markets are trending. They're oblivious to it. Yeah. It seems like they're oblivious to it. I won't speak,
I don't want to even go too far into the underlying issue where that's very American thing to do, to overvalue whatever boomers can still contribute to society, because it's like ridiculous that the last 5 politicians that were able to be selected for your presidency were all up above 70. That's nuts to me, right? Like, there's no way that like the peak human achievements are being done into your 17th year, where there's a value of experience, and then there's a value of being able to adapt to new stuff. So like I'm missing the neurological phenomenon, but like somewhere there's the perfect performance age for people depending on the neuroplasticity. Yeah, there's the perfect performance age somewhere, like let's say between 30 and between 50. It can't be 60 for video games. It is simply impossible.
I'd imagine it's probably a lot younger than that.
It is very likely. Yeah. So
it's probably a lot quicker than that, or a lot younger than that, because it's so quick. Sorry.
By the way, I absolutely have to correct myself, because the sheer creativity this company has, the potential of it, is nuts and stands with the biggest, if not second to none, in the planet. Because our generation grew up loving Blizzard games, and everyone loves to do that, and they are so enamored with the idea that Blizzard once was, that they are sleeping in their cars to work for this company.
Yep.
And there's just gatekeepers that say, for the shareholders, I don't see it. Like
ROI me, bro.
They're just past the time.
And somebody brought it up too, is that Blizzard still makes, and I think they make the best cinematics in the industry. Still, yes. I think they really do.
Even if you could argue that they're up there, they have to be on the
League
ballot.
of Legends is coming, but I agree, they're still.
But that is not like cinematics aren't. Sorry, but cinematics are from millennials. Like, that's a little bit more like. But maybe an older jam, like that was a big thing, and it's social relevancy now. It honestly is. It is what Fortnite is doing. It is what Minecraft is doing. Honestly, it's what these other games are doing in creating this other kind of virtual world. Overwatch was so close and so poised to do exactly that. The animated shorts. Boom, right away. You're like, great, awesome. I can't wait for the comics to come out. I'm getting comics now every couple months. Yeah. And then we get the Netflix series, and then we get this, and then we get that. And that is how Overwatch becomes a social phenomenon.
Yeah.
And you can't ROI that shit. You can't ROI that shit.
What happened to it?
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is you can't ROI that shit.
No. Yeah.
You can't. Even though everybody is talking about how relevant Fortnite is because of the stuff that we just talked about. The Weeknd, Travis Scott, all the all of the big tournaments,
creative
that's the stuff that the paying customers pay about.
Yep.
But the people who are making the decisions see $2 billion in-app purchase revenue month to month.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Like, I feel like they had a time where they tried a lot.
It's $2 billion for something. I can't remember if it's like year to date or a month or something.
They tried a lot, and then when those systems didn't work, they didn't work on refining them for long, or trying to completely rejuvenate and take the lessons from that. Let's think the auction house in Diablo, right? Creating an in-game economy. Whatever you might think about what that means, right? let's I mean, the thing where it worked, because it had immediate feedback that it did, was Hearthstone, right? Like there's this group within Blizzard, they like those couple of people develop something, it's an instant commercial success, and then they commit to that. They always require proof of concept without having the ability to assess if it was the time or like the execution of the problem that comes in. So now they are not committing to these ideas for a meaningful amount of time, and then suddenly someone runs away with MOBAs and does them better than them, right? Like it's
slow.
You just gotta have someone that has the guts and the understanding of how this generation, or these two generations that you're catering to, Z and millennials, how they work and what their vibes are and what they look for in games and where there are niches, and you need to like maybe see ideas through to the end. And if you see minor like if you spot a niche within that culture and it doesn't work on the first try, then that idea is not like necessarily a bad one. Others will do it for you, right? Like I don't know. Like,
I think it's just contributing to the space and showing that this could be successful. Maybe they didn't do it necessarily the right way, but it pushes like games as a whole forward. Two things I wanted to kind of hit that you brought up. MOBAs and crediting the people that probably did try to push that forward. It only kind of highlights your point. I'd be willing to put every single penny in my bank account that somebody in Blizzard was like, hey, people are playing this game that is, mod created. We need to do something about it, and nobody acted. I would be willing to put my bottom dollar that was a conversation had at the top level, or at least like some sort of like deep Blizzard level. I'd put my money on it. And in terms of like the lack of content and the lack of support and the lack of even trying again, we have to look at the resource development on where this game has been for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
It's been focused on Overwatch 2. So in a weird way, I'll be the optimist and say, maybe it's coming. Maybe that's what Overwatch 2 is. Maybe it's going to be the hit that we all need it to be.
To be fair,
because it can be.
The people who would be developing a Netflix series or a music video are not the people working on Overwatch 2.
Not at all. But I think maybe it's packaged together.
I get it. They could just be like, you know what? Let's not try to put a chandelier on a burning ship or sinking ship or whatever, and like let's just save the chandeliers for the new one. And
100%.
Like
maybe that's the case.
That's my hope. Honestly,
yes.
I just am like, it sucks because in technology, first mover advantage only works when your product is good, right? So otherwise what you do is you just create a new market that somebody else comes in, capitalizes better, and you lose all this money and all of these ideas.
Is that not worth something though? Maybe it's not the most valuable, but isn't that worth something for the future of like technology? To be viewed as like an innovator that may not execute well, but creates, right?
You could like say that about Microsoft in the late 2000s. I would say no. Okay. But
genuine question.
There are definitely examples of companies that get close but not quite there, and there are companies who bring awesome ideas to market that shouldn't have been products. And then a company like Apple comes in, perfects it, and boom, now we have it. Touch IDs in smartphones, or like touch in smartphones. I can't even call it anything different. Touch ID in smartphones. Face ID. Things like that. They weren't the first.
Sure.
But they just did it well enough there. And the people now who, did have the first phone, you'll never talk about that again. In the same thing here. In gaming, and something I appreciate about Blizzard, and I hope that they never lose, is the commitment to just polish and excellent. But I don't 100%. I think that we over attribute the time to making a product excellent, and we never talk about how long it takes Blizzard to get to a decision to make an excellent product,
to even pull the trigger, like what you're saying. They don't even it takes them so
Like, it's not
long
like,
to move.
yeah. And so, I mean,
I
we
agree.
know
I
how long
love
it
the
took them to
polish.
put together Overwatch. And even in the alpha stuff that we saw, it was about as polished as a lot of these, games coming out for open beta and stuff like that.
Sure.
And it was solid. It was more balance issues and things like that. We know Overwatch came together in a year, 18 months
roughly.
They had, to be fair, they had an engine and assets that came from a different game that was developed over the course of whatever a decade it was at the time.
Yeah, forever it feels like.
But it was a game that was pulled together relatively straightforward. When you're talking about MOBAs and when you're talking about like even auto chess, these are relatively sandbox environments. Like, it's one thing to like polish a game like WoW.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the level of polish and time needed to make a game like WoW is far less than a game like TFT.
I think it's like securing an idea so that you could go forward with it when you have a proof of concept, and you should have everything you need to be able to kind of like, and again, maybe I'm thinking out of pocket here. What was stopping Blizzard from basically approaching the developers from Defense of the Ancients and saying, hey, we'd love to bring you on. We love the product you created. We just want it. We want to bring you on to develop this for us. What's stopping them from doing that? I think it's themselves. And I think this is just an entire, accumulation of problems that Blizzard has within regards to competitive, esports, which we're the podcast of. It's all symptoms of the same thing, where they're either too slow or they're out of touch, or perhaps both. And maybe that's coming. Maybe that's Overwatch 2. I'll continue to have hope. I'll continue to be that optimist. Maybe it's coming.
Joe, you don't want that either. And wow. You guys
say that again,
right? DJ Khaled.
Yeah, we have funds.
Regular season formats, you don't need tournaments. Only tournaments don't work. And lastly, as I think, localization. Like, get away from me with this.
I agree on a lot of those points. Localization feels biased because you're European. It works here. I don't know why it doesn't work elsewhere. It's conditioned differently there.
No, it works also in. I mean, we are still fans of our local clubs, right? That's still a thing. I just don't think this generation necessarily, like, we're moving all over the planet because the freaking economy needs us to.
Sure. Yeah.
How should I be bound to like a physical space and develop? Like, I'm leaving town every 2 years. Like the
does that stop you from being a fan of your local club though?
No, but like the attachment and the type of investment would be different. And like the development is towards like finding whatever there is in the world that you find dope and becoming fan of that. And then technology is evolving to a place. I don't know if you guys have seen what Dota VR observation client looks like. There's a full observation client in Dota where you can fly around the engine and just like look at it from different perspectives. You can get people into your lobby. I think like motion tracking, like in the next 20 years, fandom or work or whatever will fundamentally happen more in virtual spaces.
100%.
Especially tech affine people will flock to that more so. That is our demographic. And to develop technology that sort of like goes towards that, like that's a way better idea to already tinker around with these ideas than for us to go, oh, well, I suppose like homestands where people like go there and then attach to players that don't also necessarily have anything to do with our home city.
I mean, I feel like you could kind of take that and frame it differently and point the finger at every other esport ever at that point, where it's like, if you're not completely online and found, the solution to 6G, then you're all behind the times. Like, I think we're thinking a little
we're the only ones localizing, aren't we?
Right. I think that's
I mean,
I think that's
outside of
their attempt at
CDL,
being creative.
Yeah, like outside of
because that's
Blizzard,
Activision. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's their attempt at being or trying to innovate.
Do you see that?
In a way.
Yeah. Does it work at the moment?
I mean, we never really got a chance to try.
So
we haven't had like a long stretch of people being able to come out to support their fans, and we haven't had like years to test if this works. But I'm not saying it will. We probably won't, not for the foreseeable future.
So
I don't know. It's a question I can't answer.
Can I pose a hypothetical?
Sure.
A very hypothetical. Let's say LCS or whatever one of the leagues. And again, I don't watch leagues, so like this is
sure,
so
whatever.
dumb.
We get it.
Well, let's just say they decided to rename all of the franchises based on local cities. That's all they did. Yeah, each team has a city. Do you stop being a fan of one because of the city that they are represented by? Everything stays the same. You probably see some marketing towards those local environments. Do you stop being a fan?
No.
Do you think
the underlying assumption is that nothing changes within these teams and TSM still stays TSM?
Yeah, it'd be
just TSM
Seattle,
New York.
TSM.
Yeah.
TSM New York, whatever.
Right.
But not if they went like New York Excelsior owned by TSM and the owned by TSM like we have now, right? Where it's like,
or it's like Immortals owns Valiant.
Yeah,
whatever.
It's not like Immortals.
Yeah, that didn't work.
It didn't.
I agree, but just bear with me for a second. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole just yet. We can go down that rabbit hole, I promise. Pin it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but let's just say, give me the name of your favorite league team.
SKT1.
Okay, SKT1. So let's just say they rebranded to, is that South Korea?
Seoul. Yeah,
Seoul. Seoul Tigers.
They're Seoul. Yeah, they're Seoul Dynasty now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They're just Seoul Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
Do you stop being a fan of that team?
Just for the rebrand, no.
Do you think new people, and Seoul's kind of weird, I understand. Do you think new people become fans of how you'd have to use I think an American example, but do you think new people would become fans of a team because that they are now the Seoul team?
Yes.
Do you think people are more interested more interested in Overwatch because there is a team associated with it? I think that was their entrance into the metaverse, and they haven't really done much else past that point.
Well, but wait, we're not done with the equation yet, though.
Okay.
Do you think some people won't become fans because a team is tied to a physical location?
For me, I do not. So that was going to be my third one. Do you think teams or some people won't become fans because they don't have a team in a physical location, or they do have a team in a physical location that they don't?
Yeah. So if SKT is suddenly called SKT1 Seoul,
okay,
is that not a repellent for some fans to not become fans of that specific city?
I feel like if you weren't
and
already,
by the way, I'm not condoning them like having
whatever.
I'm just saying, like,
I would never want to cheer on a German team.
I think if you aren't already interested, it might just increase the apathy, where it's just like, well, I don't have a team to root for, so why would I be interested in it? Like, I don't play the game. I'm not interested in the esports side of things because I don't have a team to root for. So yeah, I guess I don't care. So you're really not. It seems like a zero-sum game where it's like, I'm not interested in the game. I haven't been interested in the esport, and I'm not going to be. So like, I wouldn't say it's a repellent.
The interesting part, or the thing that makes a difference, is not the name. That's just a name. That's just a label. And we could, like, if someone told me TSM, the S and M was always Seattle, then that's fine. Like, do your JK Rowling revisionist BS.
Yeah.
Whatever, right? But like, the thing that really changes is what that means for tournament formats, what that means for league formats, what that means for priorities of the league. That it
go a little bit more in depth on what you mean, because I feel like there's a pretty like brother and sister example of what, or the space that we're specifically talking about that kind of contradicts your point.
Okay, so if I am a league where everyone wants the top spots, I cannot have a in the Overwatch League. I cannot have a tournament in Rio. Correct?
I wouldn't see why you, unless maybe I'm just like completely missing.
You
the
mean
point.
because they don't have a game, because they don't have a team
Yes.
there, you can't have a tournament in
Oh,
Rio.
I guess,
Although to be
yeah.
fair, professional leagues and professional sports, like we get some Premier
all the
League
time,
games over here in the United
Sure.
States. Not all the time, but
you would have a hard time justifying that for teams
Sure, of
because
course.
they want.
you wouldn't have
They want it to
regular.
be in there,
You wouldn't have
or
regular
within the-
tournaments in Rio
100%, yeah.
when
Right.
there's no teams even in South America. Sure.
I agree.
By localizing, you make teams tournament organizers. Correct?
Not
You
necessarily.
do not have to do that. No.
Yeah, not necessarily. I think
By
there's a increased
franchising
likelihood.
teams locally and
Yeah,
delegating
maybe.
the responsibility of organizing local events to the
Yes,
teams in charge of
that's
the
when you-
local markets. Yes, you do.
Yes.
Okay.
But I think you can still have branding like you do in the Call of Duty League, from my understanding, and maybe I'm speaking out of pocket. You still have the best of both worlds, where you have your tournaments. The teams aren't necessarily their own TOs. It is still a league-run system with the benefits of having localization. We don't have that necessarily in Overwatch because it is completely team-run and the teams are TOs. But I wouldn't necessarily equate the branding strategy to the league format. I don't know if they're necessarily rigidly correlative.
I mean, I suppose not necessarily, but you want to maximize the amount of games that. Okay, that's
Sure.
also property of the localization.
I mean, I agree with you that like you'd want to keep your events within the local system, right? Like you wouldn't be like the NFL isn't going to London every weekend to play, football, right?
Yeah.
You want to keep it within your system because it creates value, because there's more people that are interested in it there for, X number of reasons.
You also need to travel way more and organize in way more places, right?
Sure,
Because the LCS doesn't need to, right?
Right. But I think you could still have the LCS and the LCS format and have localization tied to it. I think you can have the best of both worlds. I don't know
Not
how to
with
bring
that
this back to
quality.
Overwatch.
It's impossible.
I also think that local markets should, in theory, do a better job at marketing and creating events for local markets than a central office.
Say that again.
A local market, so a local franchise. So let's use Immortals, because aren't they actually based in LA? And they have been for let's just say they have been for the last 30 years. So they're familiar with LA, they're familiar with the market. LA Valiant should, or Gladiators or whoever, should be able to organize a better event than the Overwatch League office. Assuming that they both have the same budget. Like theoretically, they should understand that market and how to market to it better than
the league would. Of course, that makes
overall
sense.
part of the league.
I agree in
theory.
In practice it doesn't necessarily weigh out. I still think we're still very young in terms of that of establishing our own markets or our understanding, these franchises understanding where they are and how to properly do that. I also think just morale and general interest about the game has been down because of the things that we've mentioned, and I won't necessarily beat that drum again, but it doesn't, none of this lends itself to being helpful. I think that's to kind of tie it back into esports and competitive Overwatch. Nothing that we've talked about has really helped us. It's only hurt us. It's only the random systems being thrown at it to fix problems that weren't really even there. The lack of content, the lack of general interest and motivation because of the reliance on Overwatch 2 to kind of be the savior of this game, as much as it's not necessarily, it kind of is viewed that way. It's the general feeling, right? Doesn't help us.
Yeah. I also just apologize for not being that structure in these thoughts.
No,
like,
I mean, that's
I feel like the
we're
last 20
we did
minutes
not
I've been
plan this
shedding
conversation,
dumb
though.
shit, but like,
no, I mean, these are interesting conversations that I think people don't have because they're either disenfranchised with the game or the league or just don't think about it. So I think these are fun conversations to have. This is what a podcast is for,
I mean,
at least in my opinion.
it's also one of my biases is like my underlying assumption for me, the reason I got into esports was I wanted to get away from physicality that was on the outside of my environment, right?
Sure.
I assume that a lot of esports fans use esports as an escape mechanism, right?
Yeah, I would imagine.
Maybe the underlying assumption becomes less and less true as time goes on, and it's not actually like further hurt an environment, but just like someone that genuinely like video games is now like one of the biggest pastimes that we have, and of course some will trickle into esports there, right?
Sure.
I just think with all the social issues that we're facing, the virtual realm makes so much more sense. And also, I think
I agree.
I looked at the Travis Scott concert. I missed it both times. Like they had 6 total.
Sure.
I would have. I was sad that I didn't see it because for me it was like a paradigm shifting event, much like watching the first 3D movie when I watched Avatar. Was the movie itself is pretty garbage.
It's an
like,
experience.
Like it's about the experience.
You take that back.
Yeah.
I mean, the story, like
what is it? Unobtainium?
Yeah, come on.
Oh, okay. So then the whole Marvel universe is out. Got it. Great.
Yeah, I'm cherry picking.
Great.
I'm cherry.
Right. But like the it's about the experience and the dimension where we can take this, right? It's like, okay, this smells like future. And the VR space and whatever is coming with it is
I think it is. That does smell like future, but I also think that we can't go full future because I think that's where we get to what John was talking about, where we might be able to create something that is, innovative and maybe a good idea, but execution wise falls flat on its face. I think you have to be able to balance both and maybe even lean towards smelling like future.
But then you don't go
smelling
back.
Like boomer.
You don't go back. And I think localization is back.
I don't think it was ever given a fair shake in terms of esports, in terms of where we are now as a general idea. So I think it's fine to retest that idea every once in a while and saying, hey, maybe there's something here. It seems to work in every other kind of competition. How do we properly use this to benefit this competition?
So Yiska, like a question, do you think that in 50 years people will want to congregate in a physical location together? Concerts, professional
family,
sports,
maybe,
but not
I
like
don't
concerts.
think for concert, no.
Professional sports.
No. I will also say, here's my bias. I've never once had fun at a concert in my life. Never once.
Conventions,
maybe
gaming conventions, Twitch cons, BlizzCons.
It's always like, oh god, it's a crowd of people. They all dumb. One screams fire and we all trample each other.
Is that not just like a bias though?
I mean, it could very well be. I just think that whatever you get out of the
general
physical
feeling.
Okay, so mask off. I have that that same argument with psychologists, where it's like, well, like having friends online is really not the same thing, in the same physical room together. I think we have a pretty good idea that it is very, very close to real friendships, right?
I think the feeling is there.
It's not for me.
Agree.
Okay,
I think that's fair as well.
Like, but again, like that. It also doesn't have to be for everybody to be true. Yeah. Right.
Sure.
Like, I totally agree that in most options, or in most cases in my life, online interactions, especially this past year, of course, have become the de facto way to maintain friendships. And in fact, there's a level of, and the fundamental concept that you can't like maintain some sort of like level of closeness and depth without being within a physical distance, I largely agree. I think is antiquated. That being said, I don't think that that means there are not benefits to being with people in a physical space.
For sure.
I mean,
outside of working on that
are.
herd immunity.
Like, I mean, there's also just like hormonal stuff, just like smelling each other. Of course, that all contributes to
mainly the
smells,
smells. Actually,
is that just the title?
Maybe
it's
That's
just
the title, bro. You already said it. It's
come on,
smells like boomer, baby.
Right? Yeah, but like, that's part of the equation. But I think like whatever we think, for instance, the hype that we can feel from, let's say, like for instance, I think the experience down the line of going to a concert that's in a virtual space with corporal beings that are all people and like avatars, with all the possibilities that you, or almost all possibilities that you have in a normal environment, while they take you to the Mariana Trench to have a concert there, then shoot up to Venus, then become an atom, like
in a post Oasis world,
whatever it is.
In a post-Oasis world where entire economies are driven off of what you're discussing, yes, I largely agree. But I don't know what the timeline is on that, if I'm being honest. But
I think that is in our generation.
I also think that if we still have a beautiful landscape outside and a beach and concert hall or whatever.
I don't think the idea of nostalgia is going away.
People are going be like, yeah, I'm just going to VR this one as a de facto choice every time. I think that largely the reason we go online is just because of COVID.
The accessibility.
I can't fly to certain places. This place is burning down. This place is melting. And so we stay inside. Like, I think that is a little bit more likely in the long run in it, and I don't think that means that we won't go to virtual spaces. I think we absolutely will, but I just don't agree that it's always the preferred way. Like it's like I always baseball games. It's way better to watch a baseball game on TV because it's because you get a better viewing experience there, but it's better to go to a baseball game. In fact, that's why you go to baseball games, is for the experience, not to watch the game.
Because it's social. Okay, yeah. I mean, to a degree, I expect that to be the case. And if there was ever a game where it should be about the social experience and not the game itself, because nobody really seems to understand what's going on, me included, then it would be Overwatch.
Maybe Overwatch,
but yeah, I just like, I don't know. I feel like we're already pretty close, and the scalability of it all is.
I don't think we're that close.
Is so much like.
I mean, we're looking at
Rod Stewart has a at the Copacabana, I think, has a 3.5 million people concert, right?
Okay, yeah.
That's the world record at the moment.
Sure.
What a tragedy.
Give it 10 years and we will beat this record by a magnitude in VR.
Are you
with an
okay,
asterisk
20 years.
in VR?
To define VR, you're talking about like a whole ass like Oculus, not like in a
maybe not virtual reality, but some
and in a
virtual space,
whether that be Twitch.tv, whether that be YouTube. I think we're already past that point then.
Don't think we had these huge like.
How many people were at the Copacabana?
3.5 million.
How many people were watching Worlds?
I mean, that's not a concert, right? And then you would have to say like,
but the players were involved.
They were involved.
Like
how different is the performance?
Here's the difference between us watching Overwatch on our God damn it! Like I'm a little sick and like curated experience.
Okay.
Our observers tell us the story, and then the shoutcasters talk over it, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a football match, that's not what's happening. You're your own observer.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I mean,
but
mechanically they're different.
In some sense, you choose your own angle. Ideally, you would want to choose from many different angles.
Sure.
That is the interactiveness, the interactiveness of the experience is what makes it special.
Yeah.
So being able to fly around Travis Scott and not just watch the YouTube video is worth $6 to me, for instance. I would pay per view of that.
Okay.
And that was more than Rod Stewart, though, right? Like 12 million,
to kind of return to the idea,
right?
Like, how is that
actually
different?
Already?
It's 12 million for that. I just
maybe it killed it already. Yeah.
To use
at the same time though, yeah.
I mean, in ways it is different, but the feeling is the same. Look at how often and how much and how I think accurately you bring up the idea of competition and esports in that same vein. It's like a church going experience. So if you still get that same feeling of I'm at an event, I'm at Worlds, Twitch chat's all pogging their goddamn heads off, right?
That's already the perfect simulation of why
that's the same
works.
Feeling.
Yes.
We can improve that, but that's where I was like, okay, are we talking about like jacking into the Matrix and like being in the Oasis or whatever?
No, it doesn't have to be.
Or does it have to be a virtual space? Because I think if we agreed to that, like Twitch and YouTube and wherever else we are, if that's a virtual space, then we're way past that point.
Maybe cheering is an inferior form to a theoretical way to express emotion within a virtual space. Maybe there's a better way where the individual, like the per capita, the
splooge no longer needs to be spiritual, is what you're saying.
What I'm saying is like 80,000 in a stadium screaming might be very, very nice, but maybe the 80,000 in a virtual space with something that isn't screaming, but something else. We haven't figured it out. Some emotive way where we just like exploit the hell out of our biological programming. Like, I don't know what it would be.
Whatever it needs to be.
This is getting a little
maybe
Black
just like
Mirror
everyone
for me,
flashes round
honest.
butts, beautiful round butts, and everyone can agree it's amazing.
It's like a Food Wars tasting. We just all,
for instance, right? Like everyone just like closes off or whatever it is. Maybe that's the higher spiritual energy of whatever it gets to be, right? Without ever hacking into like brain or whatever. Like, yeah.
If that's the case, then I think we're already there. And yeah, if you're talking about virtual spaces, then yeah, I'd agree. But I'm trying very, very very hard ways to try and swing this back to Overwatch in some way.
This is a long-winded way of these guys that are 60-year-olds want to play their golf in real life when they would probably also enjoy it more in virtual reality. They are holding me back from leaving this mortal shell alone and uploading myself into the cloud. So please bring me to peak esports experience where I'm just sub-circuits watching Profit become the GOAT in Overwatch League.
We need to get to the convergence. I agree. ASAP. We've only got like 70 years left, and then who knows? So
yeah,
please. Yeah. All right, chat. Well,
it's been a ride, boys. It's been a ride.
This was
our ability to absolutely BS through 2 hours of podcast is unrivaled, unmatched.
Hey, what else were we gonna talk about?
I mean,
there's no games.
Just because we talk for 2 hours doesn't mean that people want to listen to it.
Right.
Well, I mean, chat seems to be pretty active.
We'll see.
At least there's one person. If there's one person, then we'll keep fighting the good fight.
We went all over here. Hope you had fun. We're going to playoffs next week, and so on Wednesday we'll be kind of previewing the matches that we're going to be seeing. We've got 4 days of matches, right? Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So
I believe
play-ins, I think, are on Thursday and Friday, and the matches are Saturday, Sunday, or something like that. Anyways, something like that. We're definitely starting on Thursday. Big weekend of Overwatch League. And we'll be previewing those matches and stuff on Wednesday. Big thanks for everyone hanging out. Big thanks to our new patrons, Chris Yu, who updated their pledge. Thank you so much. And big thanks to the new subs, P Scott 15, Toucan in a Hat, and welcome to your first time watching the live show, as well as appearing Cloud9. If you like the show, consider dropping a sub right here or going to patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. We'd really super duper appreciate it. Also leave a 5-star iTunes review. You can do that for free. Shout outs to the week where people can find you. Joe, you're up first. How about? Oh, the Jaded Tongue. Thank you for the new sub just now.
Yes. Thank you, Jaded Tongue. Yeah, this week, a lot going on. If you're into Valorant, check out the socials. Looking over Pop Flash and doing some stuff there. Yeah, interview with some of the Valorant teams, looking at Birdring's career towards the end of the week in regards to playoffs. And yeah, so Valorant, Overwatch, all coming at you this week. So stay tuned.
I like how they're calling it the Kickedtripod Existential Crisis Podcast. It's so true. The cold sweats at 2 a.m. Oh,
well, you're way more rooted in reality than Joe and I are. We are just like sitting in our rooms, just like stimulating with Japanese art / anime, and then just like going to sleep at weird hours. Not just your existence. Actually doesn't refer to me at all.
Nice.
Chatting around all day. No, I'm not.
Jeez. Yiska, what about you, man? Shout outs for the week. Where can people find you?
Right. Yeah, I gotta see, like, I have a bit of a health scare. I'm self-quarantining at the moment. But I think I mean, that's my dojo now. I can exist in this virtual space. That's also where I work. So, like, I have a really dope interview that I'm pretty proud of. Great guest. Will also not surprise you who the guest is. I don't want to give it away, but it is a more contemplative interview, sort of like looking at the person's career and like the underlying principles that went through it. That's a good one. Not sure when that will be released. Otherwise, wrote something today about the discussion. Pretty interesting that we never had that in Overwatch, where in Valorant people were discussing if there should be an advantage given in the lower bracket in the grand finals when someone comes from the upper bracket. In Overwatch, that was never really discussed. We don't have that. I think the only thing that we have has been map picks, which is pretty sufficient, right? And then yeah, I will definitely have, of course, preview content. Eric has helped a bunch there once again, getting all that good math going. I'll chuck in my evaluations based on the meta. If I can help it, I'll actually fill you in what the meta in both scenes will be in that very same article, just informing you where the directions are going. I can tell you there is a wide variety of like meta compositions at the moment that teams are running, which makes me suspicious if we're not converging until Thursday. So we got to see if someone gets Torp virused again, or if the league gets Torp virused. Someone finds out something very obviously the best. But yeah, the approaches are like, there is definitely a meta blob of something that a lot of people are playing, and then there are teams that, based on their idiosyncratic advantages that they're playing, so just like a little bit of. I know. I talked a lot today. Sorry, I have a fever.
Just went on there. Just shout outs for the week. Where can people find you? It's all right. It's all right. Time is all relative.
It's just nice to have you back and be able to talk freely and to not have that ticking thing in your in the back of your head. Oh, you got to reel it in. You got to look at the time. Oh, did you just click your Discord window and is therefore now something on the
leaks?
Yeah. Are you leaking anything? Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
Oh, it's the worst.
It's not that bad. Well, lots going on at least. That's good for you. As for me, I'm doing some more content on the YouTube, but work's getting really busy. I had a meeting today for the first time where I met our company's investors face to face and got grilled for like 45 minutes. So
hard grilled? Or?
I'm gonna go drink. I think they're tough. I mean, you know, they're investing a lot of money. Like, gotta have your shit together, you know.
Sure.
So, but I think it overall went well. So, yeah, that's why I'm like dressed. I'm not dressed professionally at all. Like, it's literally a crew sweatshirt, but this is my dressing nice. Yeah. Anyways, chat, thanks for being here. I've got more stuff coming on YouTube. YouTube.com/KickTripodYT. I also am doing some more stuff with my Discord, discord.me/KickTripod. If you ever want to come on and hang out there, we talk a lot about a lot of like tech, gaming, and like mechanical keyboard stuff. Like that's what we're doing there. It's kind of fun. Just a small little group right now, but everybody's welcome to join, hang out. Please do. All right, we're out of here, chat. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good one. We will see you Wednesday. Bye. Unco, thanks for the sub.